Why is Bitcoin down today at 60K? Is it stocks? Is it gold? Is it silver? Is it the dollar? Is it the Fed? Or is it just plain old panic? We will tell you which one it is, and we will explain each one along the way. This is the Market Update. I am your host, Bill Noble. If you need a roadmap in crypto, if you need guidance during these crazy times, subscribe to the channel so you know when we're going live. If the content works for you, don't forget to hit the like button. Now, let's dive right into it. Good luck figuring out why Bitcoin is trading at 60K today and Michael Saylor's common stock for his company's strategy, MSTR, is down 6% and crashing, leading all other crypto equities to go with it, along with STRC, which is a preferred stock, which offered people an 11% interest rate if they would just give Michael Saylor more money to buy Bitcoin. This security was purchased by retail, and now that is also down 5% from its issuance price of 100 and is now trading at 81, which is a new low. Are people looking at Michael Saylor as the next FTX? Possibly. We'll discuss that. I don't think that's true, but we may be getting to the point where his stock and STRC are broken. That could trigger some Bitcoin selling by him eventually. I don't think there's any way to fully liquidate him, but the confidence factor is starting to come into play. Not just in him, because that's been in question for a long time, but his capital structure of his company and how that impacts Bitcoin. We'll discuss it. Now, let's dive into what we think is happening, or what at least the media or our charts are telling us. The big reason for Bitcoin to be down today is that gold and silver are still doing like their mini crash. And why are gold and silver crashing today? Like, what's going on? I don't think anybody really knows. But this article seems to point to the reason that the dollar is going up, and it has been going up for a while. We've discussed it. We'll look at the DXY chart. But the reason the dollar has been going up is because they perceive, right, the Fed chairman, Kevin Warsh, as being more hawkish and wanting to keep rates. The word on the street is higher for longer. So first we were getting a rate cut at every meeting. This guy was super dovish and pro-crypto. Now he walks in, has said very little, and has been perceived as hawkish, which means he's inclined to keep rates higher, which is driving the dollar up. And in my opinion, that is all incorrect. It's all incorrect. He got rid of forward guidance, so he doesn't want to talk about the future. Oil has crashed below 70. So there will be an inflation blip, but that's going to immediately end, right? They're trying to drive oil as low as they possibly can. They're trying to pump as much as they possibly can. And they means everybody, us, the Middle East, everybody. Now, what could be happening is, I would call P&L destruction. And what's that? Well, nobody wanted to be long tech stocks, at least at the institutional level, like 3 months ago. And you had a wild buying climax. You had absolutely everybody ramping all these stocks that institutions didn't want to touch. So they missed NASDAQ and they missed semis. Then they thought silver was going to 120. They thought oil was going to 200. And none of those things happened. Again, more P&L destruction. So you're either missing moves on the upside or you're getting stopped out on the downside. Absolutely hosed. Now, when you start having P&L destruction, people start panicking and selling everything. They just lose their mind and they go, oh my God, gold and silver are down. Let's tank Bitcoin. Bitcoin takes the crypto stocks down with it. MicroStrategy and STRC go along. And you have this domino effect where somebody goes, hey, the dollar has been up. Like almost like a delayed reaction. We'll go over the charts. Then there's this, oh my God, NASDAQ is going down, which NASDAQ is not going down today. NASDAQ went down 2 days ago, and fear, greed over in stonks is pretty high as people freak out about what's happening. And then all of a sudden, as gold and silver drop, everybody starts to say that the dollar debasement trade is over. So you're probably sitting there going, let me get this straight. I go to Costco and I go to pay, and it's a nightmare. I have trouble with basic necessities, blah, 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 or I at least witness what's going on with anything, basic necessities, cost structure. I'm watching the purchasing power of my dollar and my labor continually vaporize. Yet financial markets have decided, oh yeah, we're not doing the dollar debasement trade anymore. Give up on that, sell everything, get out. All right. So the first thing I want to do is see what happens when you take the other side of that argument. What happens if, when the dollar debasement trade gets done, you do the dollar debasement trade. You do it. We just published research on it in Patreon Platinum. In other words, if this is like the final stupid rise in the dollar, triggering the final stupid decline in gold or silver and Bitcoin, what may happen? That's in Patreon Platinum. For today, we're going to go over this whole dollar thing and just try to generally get our head wrapped around as to what's going on. Now, as a preview, again, details coming. This thing with Michael Saylor, I think, is getting very serious. Really. Meaning they issued more MicroStrategy common stock to pay the dividends on the STRC instrument. MicroStrategy, or strategy stock, MSTR, is literally falling apart today, down over 7%. All right. And you may have a classic confidence crisis here because this thing is taking out support. Showing this to our friends on TikTok. This thing is taking out support from like May 2024. And I don't know that there's really anybody home over here if this starts accelerating. In other words, if you take out this point, you're inside of an air pocket. You're inside of an air pocket that has unfilled gaps. Like you have a gap here, you have a gap at 89, you have a gap at 80, you have a gap at 57. So, why am I talking about this? Well, because if there is a problem with Bitcoin at this point, outside of gold and silver, it could be because people are freaking out that Saylor might have to continue selling Bitcoin because the software company doesn't generate enough money, et cetera, et cetera. It may be a Saylor negative feedback trade. So you got to keep an eye on not only MSTR, but you got to keep an eye on STRC, right? Because even if these instruments come back, has confidence in what he does been permanently shattered? Now, normally, this is a 4-hour chart. Normally, when you have Saylor FUD, that's the end, normally. But I just want to bring up that it feels like the tail is wagging the dog, meaning Bitcoin is being dragged down by factors that have nothing to do with Bitcoin. It's semiconductor stocks, it's gold, it's silver. Okay. It's also could be strategy and the related price action. It's possible. Now, let's go to what everybody is really upset about, and let's talk about the dollar. Okay. So as you can see on this chart, and guys who are really great with this, I'm probably going to be doing a video with him talking about it, is our guys from StormRake, which is the best place to get, not only the best prices on trading, but also a human being to talk to about it. Open an account today. Now, DXY, this is the dollar index, is now approaching 102, which is the highest level it's been at since May of last year. And as you can see, lately it's been up only, mainly because, the Japanese currency continues to collapse. There's no reason to buy sterling. There's no reason to buy the euro. And the dollar just keeps floating higher, which, of course, in traditional macro classic analysis, wrecks gold and silver. It's very hard for gold, silver, or oil to survive, an ongoing mess or an ongoing rally in the dollar. Now, if we start looking at gold, there's a really big fib number. And again, I'm drawing this on the fly for the first time. There's a really big fib number at 3,900, depending on how you draw it. Or you could draw this, and gold is exactly at the fib number. If we look at sort of the big rise that started in April of last year. Interesting level at 39.62. And of course, the real shocker is silver. We talked about these X waves from LuxAlgo. That link is down below. These X waves from LuxAlgo being negative. So, okay, they were negative. Here's your decline. Fine. Okay, this is what's wrecking Bitcoin, as generally speaking, all commodities. Oil, which is now at 70. Copper is coming off its high, mainly because I think this AI trade has gotten crazy, as we've talked about. Now, this obviously has a drag on Bitcoin, particularly this dollar thing. All right, I get it. I get this whole Warsh thing, but to say the dollar debasement trade is dead, it makes me want to go the other way. When everyone's like, oh, the dollar is king. Really? Okay. All right. There are a lot of other factors that make 60K Bitcoin look asinine, stupid. In other words, if there is something wrong with, say, a Bitcoin player, or somebody is liquidating, whether it's Saylor or a hedge fund or whatever, or hedge funds are just pressing their shorts, Bitcoin down 3% only makes sense if you believe gold is done, silver is done, the dollar is going up, and the Fed is going to hike rates. That's the macro reason for this. Okay. Now, on the equities side, okay, you have funny business everywhere. This is what's amazing about 60K Bitcoin. Amazing. So the US private credit exodus is accelerating. Investor withdrawal requests rising. Get me out. What's private credit? It's where Silicon Valley, okay, goes to the capital markets and goes, hey, we want to build some cool software. Lend us some money. Oh, you're going to charge us a high interest rate? No problem. And Wall Street goes, hey, this is fun. Let's keep doing this. And then you know what? We'll package all the loans into securities. Does that sound familiar? Yeah, that sounds like 2008, except this is like the Silicon Valley 2008. Let's make all these securities and have all these funds. And then everybody wants their money out. And then the funds are like, oh, no, sorry. Our loans are not liquid. We can't sell our loans to anybody unless we want to sell them for 10 cents on the dollar. So either the loans got securitized or they're not securitized and they can't sell the loan. So everybody wants their money and there's no way to get their money back. This is an old story and it doesn't matter until it does. So you have like, I know today it looks like the end of the world for Bitcoin. I get it. Bear market, sold it at the 21-day moving average, hedge funds sitting on it, gold and silver down. We already went through that. I know. So we covered that. But what we also need to cover is what's not obvious. What's not obvious? Okay. Here's another thing that's not obvious that I've talked about, which is accounting funny business at Silicon Valley companies. Accounting funny business. Cross ownership of AI companies is artificially inflating profits. The other income category was equal to 40% of hyperscaler operating profits, mainly reflecting, are you ready for this? Mark-to-market gains on their holdings of private companies such as Anthropic and OpenAI. So in other words, if you invested in Anthropic and OpenAI and the valuation of those companies in theory has risen, you can count that as operating profits. Really? Wow. Like you didn't sell your shares. Your shares are not public. Even if they are public, can you sell them all? No. They're calling this operating profit. Really? Wow. So Legacy has accounting funny business, wild valuations, the general public buying the top, and massive amounts of institutional capital trapped in private credit. Now, all those things put together, is that the end of the world? Maybe not. But does that make you want to own Legacy? Does that make you want to own tech stocks? Does that make you believe in this narrative? I mean, I clicked on some stream earlier today, watching a bunch of guys going, yeah, you know, Bitcoin's got problems because all the money's going over to AI. Wow. All the money's going over to the system that's got this going on. So the dollar, so let's go over the list. Let's go over Mr. Market's list today. The dollar debasement trade is fun. You know, you're going to go to Costco and it's going to be, it's going to look like 2015 all over again because the dollar debasement trade is over. And then everything in NASDAQ is fine, right? There's no accounting funny business. There's no companies dumping stocks and bonds on the heads of like euphoric, crazy people wearing lampshades on their head. And that price action and that rationale is being used as a legitimate justification, and the capital flows moving over there as a legitimate justification to dump Bitcoin, privacy. We are aggressively talking to people about certain sectors to get into in altcoins because it's not about Bitcoin. But today, they're indiscriminately dumping everything. Right? And no one knows why. And, you know, like CNBC is trying to figure it out Bitcoin cracked 60, sinking to the lowest levels since October. And this is going, well, there's ETF, there's ETF outflows. Yeah, okay. And we know this already. ETF outflows, NASDAQ's down. Nobody knows why. It's because everyone is giving up on this dollar debasement trade, assuming Warsh is going to want to or was going to want to hike rates. How are higher rates going to prevent a rise in petrochemicals that was created by a 100-day conflict, right? All of that inflation will get unwound if oil goes below 70. And I'm starting to wonder if oil's going to wind up below 60. In other words, when it was 60, smart money said it was going to 120. When it was at 120, smart money was calling for 60. I didn't call for it loud enough. Oil's crashing and Bitcoin is getting smashed. I think the market has this completely wrong. All the macro stuff, absolutely, completely wrong. Felix Cepeda Channel says crypto sucks, man. And that could be one of the reasons why people could just be packing it in and giving up. There is no doubt that could be what is happening. None. In other words, people just say, I don't want to do this anymore. And if you just look at the Bitcoin chart, okay, unfortunately, you have the bears in charge, right? You hit the 21-day moving average and you come off. You hit again a Fibonacci circle line and you come off. The bears are completely running this whole thing, but the rationale for doing this trade is not there unless Michael Saylor is getting liquidated. But, let's buy the top of the dollar, because one thing that we have talked about is that with the dollar versus the yen going up only, which I'll show, because this is very important, and somebody might actually care about it after today, because I've been talking about this and I know everybody's been going, okay, boomer. All right. I know that. But this thing with the dollar, right? Bloomberg and all these news services are going to go out today looking for some kind of explanation. They're going to go, well, why is Bitcoin at 60K? Like I went through everything. I went through Perplexity, Gemini. I was everything. Find me an article that says, why is Bitcoin at 60K? Crickets. No article, no answer. This is going to be what they're going to blame. They're going to blame gold. They're going to blame silver, and they're going to blame the dollar versus the yen being, frankly, vertical as the dollar rises and everyone panics and gets out of the yen. Now, 3 days ago, I brought this up again. Okay, boomer. What is the solution to that problem? Ready? So the Bank of Japan has been using all the dollars that it has, right, to try to sell the dollar and buy the yen to stop the dollar from going up. Well, guess what? They're out of money. They're out of dollars. So what are they going to have to do? Well, they're going to have to sell U.S. Treasury bonds. I don't know that I see that happening. Or the Federal Reserve is going to have to open up what's called a swap line. A swap line. And what's a swap line? Well, that means, hey, we'll give you all the dollars you need. That's called printing. It's called printing. They're going to print. They're going to either print and give the money to Japan to do these interventions, or they're going to print and come in and do the intervention themselves. In other words, when everybody is declaring the dollar debasement trade is dead, sell silver at $57, gold's going to puke below 4,000, whatever. Warsh is going to hike rates right up until Warsh presses the button because they cannot have dollar yen blow up. This thing with the dollar rising is toxic. Like when everyone wants the dollar, people are saying that my money is safer in a dollar deposit than it is anywhere else in the world. In other words, if people say, I just want to keep my money in dollars, money doesn't go anywhere else. Money doesn't go into crypto. Money doesn't go into international stocks. Money doesn't go everywhere. All I want to do is belong the dollar. Okay. Meanwhile, as everyone acts like a ninny, long bonds, US bonds, which were getting hammered because of the whole inflation trade, are actually rallying. The US long bond, which went all the way up to 5.2%. That's your mortgage rate, right? Yeah, it was up at 5.2%. It's now taken out the 200-day moving average, and it's falling to 4.8. Why? Well, because oil's down, and they're going to print. Because what's one of the beneficiaries when they print? Bonds. Bonds. A lot of times when they do either printing or QE, they put money into the market and drain treasuries out. So meanwhile, as everybody is going, oh my God, it's all, Bitcoin and gold and silver are all going to zero. You have a reason for the Fed to print. You have bonds going yay on lower inflation as everybody thinks this guy, Kevin Warsh, who wants rates down because he believes that the productivity revolution with AI is similar to the productivity revolution from 1998 and 1999 that let Greenspan go, yeah, growth is pretty good, but everyone's getting more efficient and more productive, and that holds inflation down. Therefore, we can either cut rates or leave rates lower for longer. So it's happening. It's happening on the screen. Oil down, bonds up. Kevin Warsh has said he wants lower for longer. And everybody is saying it's the opposite. Why? Because when they see the price action, they have to wrap a narrative around the price action. You see Bitcoin at 60K and you go looking for an article and this is what you find. Hawkish Warsh. Oh my God, Warsh is hawkish. Okay. I don't know what, you can go through whatever he said at the last statement. Whatever he said at the last statement, there is going to be like some sort of lingering inflation blip. The guy just can't come out and say, yeah, party all the time. No, he's going to say, yeah, I want to do what the orange man says. No, he can't say that. But the guy has said, I'm from the Greenspan school of, keeping rates down because of productivity. Let's put it another way. Everyone is doing the wrong AI trade. Maybe that's how I should have started the stream. Everybody. And this is so typical in the world. Everyone always does the wrong trade. They do yesterday's trade. What was yesterday's trade? Moon semiconductors, moon chip stocks. Oh, well, by the way, as we discussed yesterday, the cost of renting compute or GPUs is crashing. Great. Awesome. Right? Let's have semiconductor stocks have 100 price earnings ratios. Crazy. The new AI trade could be an increase in worker or economic productivity, which allows rates to be down or lower. So is it NASDAQ euphoria with accounting funny business? Or is it the complete opposite of what they're talking about today, which is more productivity, okay, and less inflation? And here comes a word. You ready? Because just like the thing with the dollar, you read this thing about the dollar in Bloomberg tomorrow. And one thing we pride ourselves on the show for the YouTube member area and for Patreon is that we want to tell you about stuff before it hits Bloomberg, right? The YouTube member area has got intense altcoin alpha with the altcoins that have been working. Hint, some of them are in finance, believe it or not. When people do this, the snapback effect, can be absolutely epic. You know, as you hear about, you know, the dollar or the accounting funny business or what Warsh really wants, or a new word, ready? Disinflation. Don't believe me? Okay, that's fine. Let's look at the oil chart. Let's look at the oil chart. I mean, everyone is trying to tell me that inflation is a disaster, yet this oil chart just unwound everything. It was in a giant triangle for a long time, okay? And when you have a triangle, you know, you can travel that distance from the point of the breakdown, which gets you to oil at 63. That means a total unwind of the entire conflict trade with oil back down at 63. And the word at that point with AI productivity is disinflation. Because remember, everyone is focused on job losses because of AI. You've heard all this, right? Really what it is companies spending so much money to build AI that the only way to pay for it is to eliminate human capital. Like, what's the biggest expense we have? People. Okay, we have to build all this stuff. We have to pay any price for chips. What do? We lay people off. Then what they discover, and this is all over the news, that they sit down and they give their engineers and their employees access to these tools to try to make them smarter and better. They start using them. They get great results. They become more productive. Then they get the bill for using the AI, and it's catastrophically high. What happens if those bills start dropping? That if the price of compute doesn't actually go up, it actually continues to go down. Because the price of compute is going down, yet the equity market is filled with all of this hootenanny that it's permanently scarce, and we talked about this yesterday. Goldman talked about it. So let's review. The dollar is king. The dollar disinflation, the dollar debasement trade is over. Really? Okay. Right? Inflation's a problem. Really? The Fed's going to have to tighten. Okay. Then why is the bond market rallying? Bonds don't like inflation and they don't like Fed tightening. What? The bond market hasn't rallied in forever. Bonds have been just dead and slumping and going down and getting sold. That is right on the screen. Bonds are going up. Right? Everyone's trying to tell me it's the other way. The chairman of the Fed is hawkish. Is he? Is he? And what happens if everybody wakes up and goes, you know, this dollar rally is stupid? And what happens if central banks come out together? This is how it used to work when I was 25, right? Central banks, if they didn't like what was going on with any particular currency, you used to see the Fed, the Bundesbank, the ECB, the Bank of Japan, the Bank of England coming in all at once. If they want to make a statement, they can make a statement. And it doesn't matter how big the size is. When they all come in at once, if they want that trade, if they want the dollar lower, the dollar is going to go lower if they want it. And of course, they're going to take a look at this. Yeah, they might be happy that gold and silver are down because that embarrasses central banks, but it's not a good idea to give the foreign exchange markets license to collapse the yen, because if they leave it like it is, that's what they would be doing. The foreign exchange market is the original wild cowboy market. They're not going to sit around and let this happen. And I know we talked about this, and I know it's all okay boomer until it's in Bloomberg tomorrow, because they got to figure this out. You got some journalism major going, why is gold down? Why is silver down? Why is Bitcoin down? Why is Bitcoin at 60? I don't know. You tell me why Bitcoin is at 60. You tell me why Solana, which is getting sold on every rally, so I'll transition from macro to whining. I'll whine for just a second. You have trading on DEXs, Jupiter. We went through this in the YouTube member area extensively, right? You have all this trading going on, yet Solana, amazingly, and there's nothing I can do or say about this, like every single freaking rally is getting sold. Every single one. Like, look at this. It goes to the 21-day moving average, wick up, sold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 candlesticks where everyone is just like, I can't sell fast enough. Yet, in the YouTube member area, we go over the altcoin alpha and all these altcoins, some of them that operate on Solana, where all this, RWA and equities trading, I don't care if equities go up or down. You can have wild leveraged opportunities. If everybody switched from long semis to short semis, I don't know. I think this can continue. But meanwhile, they're just the give up trade in crypto. I mean, XRP is now at $1.06. Can you see crypto YouTube if XRP prints below $1? I mean, this is getting destroyed to the point where it looks to me like you're starting to have like FTX level panic in crypto. Crypto is acting like there's some kind of like massive, ugly problem out there. Now, if there is a massive, ugly problem, we've already discussed it. It's Saylor. It's just a straight up and down loss of confidence in the ecosystem. And that's what they're using. It's like a psychological wound. Okay, that's today. But if they waste this thing or they drop it hard, there could be a huge opportunity to go the other way on all this, because the dollar story is bunk. The bullish NASDAQ, like there's not enough money in the world and all the money's going to AI, is bunk. Their accounting is bunk. Private credit is getting nuked, and they're selling everything that they should be buying. They're buying what they should be selling and selling what they could be buying all at the same time across capital markets. It's either that or I'm stupid and I should trade this in for a Hawaiian shirt and I should go sit at some pool or go to some old age home and pack it up. I'm done. Those are all possibilities. Now, frankly, I don't think so. I don't think so, because even if they waste crypto, which they could, Bitcoin's now down 4%. They're going to test 60K. Like, for example, if I was a macro player and I understood this whole thing, that you could potentially see an epic dollar top thanks to massive central bank inflation, let's say, and I wanted to take Bitcoin and stop everybody out. Like, this would be the game. Like, if I was a hedge fund and I either needed to cover shorts or get long, oh my God, I would sit on Bitcoin all day today trying to get panic to go through 60. I'd be shorting MicroStrategy. I'd be putting out FUD on Twitter. I would get 5x leverage short Bitcoin. I would sell spot. I would lean on 60K, trying to get it to break, trying to get some sort of panic trade. I mean, it looks like they want to panic in silver. Silver's down 4.5%, right? NASDAQ is actually starting to go negative, right? And I'd hammer NASDAQ too. This is a real issue. This is a real issue. So, this is your friendly neighborhood insanity. This is NASDAQ futures, okay? and this can be, this is a legitimate reason for Bitcoin to go lower, is that, they're looking at the 21-day moving average. NASDAQ broke it yesterday, and it's not getting back above it. Like normally the trade in equities is you go below the 21-day moving average, you do a fake out, and then you rip back above it. That's the classic QE pattern. They're not getting back above the 21-day moving average so far today, and NASDAQ was up, and now it's going negative. So, of course, this would play right into the hands of anybody who was like, oh, God, what's going to happen at 60K if they start selling NASDAQ? And I get that. That would be bad. That's terrible. But the whole idea of, P&L destruction. So if they take down, stocks, gold, silver, Bitcoin, if they take everything down, Bitcoin goes down, and the only thing that goes up are treasury bonds. A flight to safety. The world gets so wacky that U.S. bonds become safe. And my argument is, okay, like if NASDAQ gets wasted, okay, that's terrible for Bitcoin today. Okay, if Bitcoin's at 58 or 59, and the next thing you know, you have Fed intervention and the dollar going lower because they got to stop it. I'm going back to this. Like, I'm trying to paint this picture that you could have this like super panic flush today or in the next couple of days. And then everybody has to go, okay, well, everyone at the central bank goes, if we let this continue, this is going to get out of control. And again, we talked about this yesterday, and I'm anticipating that unless NASDAQ is the leader today, they're going to have to figure out how to blame this on something, and they're probably going to blame it on the stronger dollar, assuming NASDAQ doesn't collapse. This, if they don't stop this, this is 1990, the year. Okay, dollar yen can go from 158 to 252. There's no resistance here. None. You think I'm the only one that can read this chart? Oh, no. So, okay. So NASDAQ has problems. NASDAQ should have problems. It should have problems. The general public bought the top. Their accounting is fake, and their narrative is fake. Their narrative is wrong. It's wrong. It's built on scarcity of compute. What they should be focused on is scarcity of supply. AI cannot create more Bitcoin. You've heard this. You've heard it from a couple of other people. The scarcity idea is being done in the wrong market. So, other than that, the markets have got this perfect today. This is what creates real opportunity. The only question is, can you deal with the pain in the short term? If NASDAQ and semis crack today with gold and silver down, you could have panic selling. If there is panic selling, is that an opportunity? I think so. I think so. Now, if I'm wrong, okay, well, I'm wrong. Yeah, I don't mind sticking my neck out on this because I don't think anybody understands what's happening. I'm convinced of that. You could go on the internet and say, tell me what's happening. Tell me why this is moving the way it is. Nothing. There's nothing out there. I mean, I'm sure if anybody will find it, it will be the Eagle King. But I couldn't find it. So you have to ask yourself, all right, it's going to happen. What happens if this thing reverses? That's sort of how I'm looking at it. Okay, let's welcome who's here. Okay, we have Bull Runner on the stream first, of course. Let's go Spartans, the people in Patreon. And needless to say, anybody who's remained a member is getting good research from me and Toby. All right. And obviously, we appreciate your business because without you, without StormRake, you're listening to somebody else. So we definitely appreciate you tuning in with us. We have Thomas Chai is here. Grandpa Keeter is in the house. Okay. A1 Rising is back. Welcome back, sir. It's overreaction is all. Okay. Someone is asking me what happened to my former employer. All right. Well, don't want to say too much about it, but you know, they had to do, they had to do a restructuring, right? I mean, the guy was a visionary. He was into AI combined with crypto in 2018. He had the original AI vision, right? They got to focus on their index product where instead of you having to chase individual altcoins, you just buy their index product and their index product automatically gets into whatever's hot. I think that's their focus. All I know is when I was there, the people who I was with, they practically became a who's who in crypto. That was one of the greatest teams I'd ever been on, and that includes Goldman. Okay. Somebody likes my shirt. Country Club Hillbilly is exhausted. Dude, I don't blame you. I put something together early this morning that was like, what happens if the dollar tops? I fell asleep again, and then I woke up, and his Bitcoin is ready to go through 60. I totally get it. Gary is like, I'm not taking any losses. You know, Toby's like, if you do sell, what are you putting it into? You're putting it into the dollar that just gets swallowed up at Costco. You know, Wall Street is not Main Street. Wing Raven is here. I can't take this anymore. I can't hold on. Right? It's like, I'm done. I can't get long it. I can't get short it. Dude, I don't blame you. And this is what happens at the end. Whether the end is near or the end is October, all these 4-year cycle guys think the end is farther out. PWB, good evening. Odd Dark, a member, welcome. John Legend is here. What's happening? Okay. Somebody out there is a perma bear down in the dumps. You have to have a positive mindset. And that's kind of Toby's attitude. She's like, all altcoins are not down. They may be down today, but you know, DEXs and all these things that we've been looking at, and that's in the YouTube member area, that stuff's been mooning. And that may continue, especially if online stock trading or if blockchain-based stock trading continues or that money moves over to crypto. I keep saying it like, oh, okay, let's buy NASDAQ at the high and sell Bitcoin at the low. Wait a minute. You know how fast that switches on chain? I don't know. People just have to sort of, you know, Grandpa Keeter says near protocol. Yeah, let's look at it. It's kind of funny. How all of a sudden everything that was good and interesting is no good anymore. Amazing. 200-day moving average in near is $1.78. 62% retracement is $1.73. That's of the entire move. If you shorten it, the 62% retracement is $1.88. If you sort of zoom in close on near, depending on how you draw these things, you could look at today as a running of the stops down below $1.95. So you'd be very interested in a reclaim of that. I'm very interested in $1.87. With these fib retracement things, you don't know until it's actually over which was the right level. I'm very interested in $1.87. You know, because this stuff, like I said, if they panic today in Bitcoin, It's going to be very interesting to see like how far they get before the people who want to own it come in and grab it. I can tell by the way this is trading that they're going to press everything. Like if you wanted to own gold or silver or any of these things, you just absolutely lean on it all day. Create the panic, which is what they're doing, right? Like, yeah, Bitcoin below 60, Bitcoin's down 5%. I know this could be a 10% down day in Bitcoin. You would get everyone out, everyone negative, everyone the other way before it potentially turns, or it's going to 45K, in which case it's a very short live stream. Very. Right. Sell Bitcoin to 21-day moving average and let it go down 15%. This to me, again, it looks like absolute raw panic. Okay. Okay. Haven Peck says, if crypto survives, I will go out and party. Grandpa Keeter says he got involved in near at $1.58. You know what Toby is? That's, by the way, that's the 76% retracement on that chart I had here, just so you know. This is $1.59. So, I mean, I think the flip side of some of the stuff I'm saying is, you can't be too shocked. You can't be too shocked if they want to take it to some level of material excess today, right? Because they don't know why it's down other than the fact that people are just absolutely giving up, right? Warpaint likes Morpho. Okay. Judge Jury says it's over. Grandpa Keeter says the lizards will run the world. John 31:6. Or John 3:16 says blessings. Smash the like button. Okay. A1 Rising is headed underground because of the lizards that run these AI companies. These AI companies that all have phony baloney accounting. Phony baloney accounting. All right. So there's two parallels to the .com bubble that we need to be aware of. The first one was phony baloney accounting. You had a lot of phony baloney accounting back then. A lot. Okay. And, with Saylor, you had, this is NDX or NASDAQ 2000 versus Saylor strategy today, right? Back then, you had massive valuations with no earnings. This is different today. You have earnings, but you have massive valuation of the earnings. Back in 2000, you had no earnings. Strategy really has no earnings. None. I mean, they have some, but not compared to what they have to pay out for all these Bitcoin lending operations, right? .com era, they funded operation with constant IPOs and constant stock issuance, which is exactly what strategy is doing, right? NASDAQ was driven by eyeballs on websites. Strategy is driven by the Saylor cult and leveraged Bitcoin ideas, okay? The assumption was growth plus market access equals, forever. Like you were just going to grow forever. And of course, the Saylor assumption is Bitcoin has nowhere to go but up to $1 million. Okay. The collapse in 2000 came when, everybody was like, yeah, we're not taking this stock anymore. And we don't think stocks are worth what you think they're worth anymore. And then it just vaporized. Right. So, in Saylor's case, if equities funding vanishes, right. And even if none of this is correct, it's definitely impacting psychology. There's no question about that. I mean, like MSTR is now down close to 10%. Strategy, STRC, is now falling below 80. So to put that in perspective, some member of the general public who said, you know what, this is a great idea. I hate the dollar. I'm getting crushed at Costco. instead of buying Bitcoin, which is way too volatile, I'm going to go out and I'm going to buy this thing that's going to give me 11% interest. And isn't going to go anywhere. It's going to sit there at 100 and I don't need to sell it. I just need to collect 11%. And as of now, they're down 20% in a preferred stock, which is like a bond. That's mind boggling. That's like Bitcoin being down 80% to have that kind of move. I mean, it might not come all the way back to 100 for a long time. You may have to have a new all-time high in Bitcoin before all the bag holders get out of that. Not to get too hysterical. Like MicroStrategy, instead of Bitcoin driving strategy, strategy could be driving Bitcoin today, right? So, again, Eagle King starting to come in with news now. And I'll leave this as a final note, just as a factual thing. These three companies, the following stocks have larger market caps than all of crypto combined: NVIDIA, Apple, Google, Microsoft, Amazon, and TSMC. Total crypto market cap is $2 trillion, and it may be worth less than $2 trillion at the end of today. We have talked extensively in the YouTube member area. We've also talked about it with our guys from StormRake about what happens when everyone comes to Bitcoin, when machines come to Bitcoin, when people go looking for a different monetary solution. They're not going to Google. They're not going to Microsoft. They're not going to Apple. NVIDIA is a super profitable company, is the spine and the backbone of the whole AI trade. No one's disputing that. But what is the rest of that sector worth relative to Bitcoin and crypto? It is freaking crazy. And they are pushing crypto to the side of the road. And for today, all we can do is let them. Until this dollar thing shows itself, until their accounting thing shows itself. God forbid if they let the dollar go and the dollar goes up, or Warsh is going to be testifying in front of Congress on July 14th. That feels like a million years from now. So I think what we've done today, we've outlined the risks. We've outlined the real drivers behind the Bitcoin decline: gold, silver, dollar, Fed, all these narratives, insane. Bonds rallying, printing on the way. NASDAQ narrative just is a joke. The NASDAQ narrative is a joke. What they do with prices, I don't know, but their narrative is bunk. Absolute bunk. Okay, so please take a look at the latest news in Patreon. Definitely check out what we did with Toby, and we're looking forward to a new StormRake video coming soon. People like the last one. Don't forget, without your support, without you hitting the like button, okay, open an account at StormRake. We're keeping the doors open, like somebody said, hoping for a better day. So that's the market update. We will see you tomorrow.